So that one didn't work out terribly well for the French. They did take a step loss from these guys in the ambush, but for combat, they rolled a 2. And according to the rules, it doesn't say it on here, according to the rules, a natural 2 is always a 2 times attacker loss. So the French have finished their movement. Hanoi broke up their stack a little bit. I think the scenario doesn't say anything about it, but I think the rules say if Hanoi is taken, it's an auto win for the Viet Minh. So the French want to keep some people in there. I also didn't realize, but there's no supply dump in Hanoi. It seems like there would have been, but there's not. So that would have put this guy at a disadvantage from overrunning anyway. But we'll just leave it how it shook out. Actually, now that I had to think about it, this one, it still would have been an exchange. There was an overrun in here that ended with a dead guy up there, a step loss, and 2 disorganized units. So we move into the attrition phase, which for turn 1 won't have any effect since there's nothing out of supply from last turn, since there wasn't the last turn. Now we move into the operations phase, and this is the meat of the game, is this operations phase. So basically each side will get 10 operations points up here to do operations. Move again, bring in supply dumps, do combat, do barrages, that sort of thing. However, I misspoke just a second ago. You can't bring in supply dumps for operations. That's false. So what you can do is remove disorganization. You can remove destroyed road markers. You can entrench, which might be a good idea for the Viet Minh to do up here. You can move, like I said, you can barrage, you can destroy a road. So that's just the straight up actions that during your operations phase you can do that. Now if you take one of your supply dumps and flip it over to the spending side, then you're spending supply to do you can barrage a single hex with artillery units that are within 3 hexes of your spending supply dump, and you can attack a single hex with troops as long as all of those troops are within 3 hexes of the supply dump. However, so the first 5 things you can do if you spend the supply dump or not. The second 2, or the last 2, I guess, you can do only if you spend a supply dump. However, if neither player spends a supply dump, no operations phase happens. So how it stands now, the Viet Minh, they have 3 supply dumps, but is there a ton that they need to do right now? Probably not. So they're not going to spend one. Oh, you know what? I think I might have done that backward. Oh, no. So the Viet Minh decides first. They're not going to. Basically forcing the French to spend their only 1 if they want to do anything. The French probably do want to do something. They need to be on the attack right now. It sounds like in most of the scenarios and in the campaign game that the French are going to be more on the defensive and they want the game to hurry up. So it puts them in a better position. However, in this scenario, or at least in this situation as it stands now, it seems like it's better for the French to go ahead and take this operations phase. The Viet Minh rolled for theirs and only got 2 operations that they can do. So what they did is spent a supply dump here and dug in here and then moved with the other, kind of evened out these forces a little bit. This guy moved here and these guys pulled back a little bit. So we're through another round of operations. The French moved and removed some disorganization. The Viet Minh rolled a 1 and just moved. Brought some units in here, coming around this way. The French, during their move, tried an overrun here and just ended up with 2-step losses and some disorganization. The Viet Minh took a step loss, which I didn't record. So we'll roll for the French again. So that's going to be 2 operations for them that they can do. Right there. This first one, what they're going to do is airstrike. It just has to be next to a French unit. And we definitely want to hold this, so we'll do it there. So for the barrage, we just consult this table, which has DRMs on it, strengths and results. So we'll roll the die. We're at a strength of 7. We roll a 2. We're going to get -1, and then +1. -1 for the forest, +1 for 6 or more stacking units. Yeah, we're at 7. So that's going to be a true 2. Barrage points are 7. 2 is a miss. However, I don't think this is spent. We just get it. So that's not too much of a loss there. So that was 1. And then we'll spend our last one to probably, well, I think actually what we'll do is, yeah, we'll figure it out. So the French with their 1 activation just chose to move. Did an overrun here that was pretty successful. They did take 2-step losses and forced the Viet Minh to retreat there. They also used another air point. They have 1 left, which isn't something I did during the initial movement turn and or movement phase, which maybe I should have. But I need to get these guys in supply. There's an airfield here and an airfield there. So for 1 air transport point, they can move 3 steps, which they've done, and there's 2 remaining in here. These guys are pretty well hemmed in. I guess they could break out. So they'll leave a force behind. And we'll go into the next Viet Minh operation. And that's going to be 3. So we're all wrapped up with the operations phase. This is the state of the map. I think I might have screwed the French up. In most games you don't do the initial reinforcement phase. I don't know if you're supposed to in this one. It doesn't say not to, but it doesn't make sense to have replacements before anything's been lost. But during that phase, the French were supposed to get a supply dump. So I put one there, which would have maybe helped a little bit. It probably would have changed what they did. They would have spent this one instead of this one. But that's fine. They really have some big forces that they brought in to bear. They were trying to kind of turn this line, but instead brought everything over here. They had to pull back at the end of the operation to get into supply. With that, which is kind of why you see this, they wanted to come in this way, but at the end of the turn, or at the end of the month, I guess they need to be They need to get resupplied. And the designer does talk about that there would be fighting, and then everyone would pull back and try to regroup. The Viet Minh over here dug in. This trench was captured. The rules don't say anything about captured trenches flipping to the other side, but it seems to make sense. It's a trench. Maybe it's facing the wrong way, but unless I can find something different, that's a trench. Maybe I'll go reread those rules. So now we do supply check. So the Viet Minh have to be in a trench. The headquarters is always... Oh, shoot. Well, yeah, that doesn't matter. The headquarters is always in supply. Our independent operators there are always in supply. The path at low, which we don't have any on, are always in supply. And then the real supply is just anywhere within 3 hexes of a supply dump. So there's one here, and there's one here. So the Viet Minh are all good. Same thing pretty much for the French. Well, I guess this goes away. Yeah, I guess that goes away at the end of the operations. Man, my nose is running. So that guy will be out of supply. The French also get to draw along the river, which would make this guy in supply even if he was out here a little bit more, I think. So 5 hexes from a supply center or a supply dump. And we'll move into November of 1952.